Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be talking about something called the Jevons Paradox.
Oh, yeah.
It's this kind of obscure economic principle from like the 1800s. But get this, it's like crazy relevant to what's going on right now with AI.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to unpack all that. But just to give you a little sneak peek,
Yeah.
imagine a world where AI gets so efficient.
Right.
It's like super cheap. And it's like literally everywhere. Sounds kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it does.
But this paradox throws a bit of a wrench in things.
That's right. It challenges a lot of our assumptions about how technology and progress work.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Give us the rundown on this Jevons Paradox. Like, where did it all begin?
All right, so picture this. It's the 19th century. And William Stanley Jevons, this brilliant economist, he's looking at the coal industry in England.
Okay.
And he notices something kind of strange. You know, steam engines are becoming way more efficient using coal, but the demand for coal is actually skyrocketing.
Wait, so they're using coal more efficiently?
Yeah.
But they're using more of it overall.
That's exactly right.
That seems kind of counterintuitive.
You would think less coal would be needed, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So what's the deal? What was Jevons' explanation for this?
So he realized that when something becomes more efficient, it also often becomes cheaper. And when something's cheaper, people tend to use more of it.
Makes sense.
It's like a chain reaction.
So even though each individual use is more efficient,
Right.
the overall consumption goes up.
Yeah.
Because there's just more demand.
Exactly. More demand.
Wow. That's crazy. That's kind of mind-boggling.
It is. It's a little bit mind-bending, but it helps to explain a lot of things.
Okay. So we talked about fuel-efficient cars earlier.
Yeah.
Like they get great gas mileage, but because they're cheaper to drive,
Right.
people end up driving more. So it kind of evens out in a way.
That's a great example. It illustrates the principle perfectly.
Okay. So let's fast forward to today. What does this all have to do with AI and this company called DeepSeek? They've been making headlines recently.
They have. DeepSeek is a Chinese AI company that's making some really big waves. They're developing these incredibly efficient AI models, like crazy efficient, and they've actually reportedly wiped $600 billion off of NVIDIA's market value.
Hold on. Wait, $600 billion off NVIDIA?
NVIDIA.
In a single day?
In a single day.
That's insane. How's it even possible?
So NVIDIA is a major player in the AI hardware space, right? They make these powerful chips that are used to train and run a lot of these AI models.
Gotcha. So like the brains of the operation.
Exactly. But if DeepSeek's models are so efficient, they might not need those top-of-the-line, really expensive chips.
So basically they're disrupting the market by making AI cheaper and more efficient.
That's a great way to put it. They're democratizing access to AI in a way.
Okay. I'm starting to see the Jevons Paradox connection here. But before we get into that, tell me more about this DeepSeek company. What's their secret sauce? How are they making AI so efficient?
So that is the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, they haven't exactly revealed all their methods.
They're keeping it under wraps.
We are, but there are some clues we can kind of piece together.
Yeah.
They're likely using a combination of really innovative algorithms, data optimization techniques, and they might even have some novel hardware approaches.
Interesting. So it's not just one magic bullet. It's like a whole bunch of clever tricks working together.
Exactly. It's a systems-level approach.
Makes sense. But let's get back to the Jevons Paradox. If DeepSeek makes AI more efficient and cheaper, doesn't that mean we'll actually use less energy overall?
That's where the paradox really comes into play, because it's not necessarily the case. Think about this. Imagine a world where AI is so cheap and efficient that it's integrated into basically everything. Every device in your home, every service you use, even your toothbrush.
Okay, an AI toothbrush. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. But I see your point.
Yeah.
Even if each individual AI is using less energy, the sheer number of AIs out there could lead to a massive increase in overall energy consumption.
That's exactly it. It's the scale that matters.
Yeah.
And remember, AI still relies on data centers and computing power, which uses a ton of energy.
Right.
So even small increases in individual energy use can have a really big impact when you multiply it across millions or billions of AI applications.
This was kind of like that saying, death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Like all these tiny little increases
suddenly
add up to a huge problem.
Yeah. This is a very apt analogy.
Okay, this is starting to feel a bit like a sci-fi movie.
Uh-huh.
Like where the robots take over and drain all our resources.
It's a common trope for a reason.
Yeah.
right? We often project our fears onto new technologies.
Right. But it's not quite that dramatic, though, right?
Well, it's not quite that dramatic yet, but it does raise some important questions about how we manage the growth of AI and its impact on our planet. It's a bit like a balancing act.
Right.
We want to embrace the potential benefits of AI, but we also need to be mindful of the potential downsides.
So how do we walk that tightrope? How do we make sure AI doesn't become this, like, energy-guzzling monster?
That's a question that a lot of people are wrestling with right now, and it's a question with a lot of different answers.
Okay.
Because it's a complex problem.
Right. So where do we even begin? Like, what are some of the things that we can do to steer AI in the right direction?
Well, one thing we need to focus on is developing more sustainable AI systems that are designed from the ground up to be energy efficient.
What does that even mean, sustainable AI?
So it's not just about like slapping a solar panel on a data center.
Right.
It's about optimizing the algorithms, minimizing data usage, and using more efficient hardware.
So it's about being resource conscious from the very beginning.
Exactly, from the ground up.
Okay. But it's not just about the technology itself, right? It's also about how we use it.
That's a huge part of it.
Like, do we really need AI-powered toothbrushes and toasters?
Yeah.
Or can we focus on applications that have, like, real societal benefits, like healthcare or education
Right.
or renewable energy?
Those were all great examples. It's about choosing our AI battles wisely.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting the responsible AI message loud and clear.
Good.
But let's be real. People love shiny new gadgets and cool features. How do we convince them to prioritize sustainability over convenience?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's about finding that balance between innovation and responsibility, and it's about making sustainable choices easier and more appealing.
It's a tough challenge for sure.
It is.
But how do we even begin to change those ingrained behaviors?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Even with all the talk about climate change, people still drive gas-guzzling SUVs and leave their lights on all night.
You're right. It's a complex problem with deep roots, but I don't think it's hopeless. Think about the changes we've seen in attitudes towards things like recycling or smoking in public places.
Yeah.
It took time, education, and sometimes even regulations to shift those norms. We can do the same with AI.
Okay, so we need a similar approach for AI.
I think so.
Like a combination of public awareness campaigns, government incentives for sustainable AI development, and maybe even some guidelines or regulations.
I think a multi-pronged approach is definitely necessary.
Okay, now I want to bring our listeners into the conversation here. What role do you think individuals play in shaping the future of AI and its impact on the environment? Do you think about the energy consumption of the AI-powered tools you use?
Those are great questions to reflect on. I encourage everyone to consider their own AI footprint.
Right. So it's not just about the big players like governments and tech giants. It's also about individual responsibility and making conscious choices.
Every little bit counts.
Absolutely. But sometimes it feels like an uphill battle. You know, it's hard to even understand all this stuff about AI. It's like trying to understand rocket science.
It can be complex, for sure. But I think it helps to break things down and look at it from different angles.
Okay. Give me an angle.
How about this? Think about AI like any other resource that we need to manage. We manage our water usage, our electricity consumption, our food waste. Why not our AI usage?
That's a really good analogy. It makes it more relatable.
Right.
But how do we even measure our AI usage? Is there like an AI footprint calculator or something?
Not yet. But there are researchers working on developing metrics for assessing the environmental impact of AI. Things like energy consumption during training, data storage requirements, and the lifespan of AI-powered devices.
Okay, so it's a work in progress. But even without precise metrics, we can still start thinking more critically about our AI choices.
Absolutely. And that's where critical thinking comes in.
Okay, so what kind of questions should we be asking ourselves?
We'll start with the basics, like, do I really need this AI-powered feature? What are the potential downsides? Are there more sustainable alternatives?
Okay, so it's kind of like think before your AI,
Exactly.
right? But sometimes all this serious talk about sustainability and resource management,
Right.
it can feel a little heavy.
I get it.
So how about we lighten things up a bit and have some fun with this?
I'm all for that.
I love using movie analogies to make complex topics more relatable. So let's imagine some of our favorite movie characters
Yeah.
facing the Jevons Paradox in this world of AI.
All right, I'm game. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
You know Iron Man?
Yeah.
We all know he loves his high-tech gadgets
Uh-huh.
and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Right.
What do you think he would do with super efficient AI? Would he be all about sustainability, or would he just like crank things up to 11 and create even more power-hungry inventions?
Knowing Tony, he'd probably do a little bit of both. He'd be fascinated by the challenge of making AI as efficient as possible, but he'd also be tempted to use that efficiency to create even more advanced and even more powerful AI systems.
A kind of double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
He'd be driving innovation forward,
Yeah.
but also potentially making the problem worse.
It's that classic tension between progress and responsibility.
Yeah. Okay. Let's switch gears and consider a different kind of character. How about someone like Wall-E?
Oh, Wall-E?
You know, the little robot from the Pixar movie? Who's left behind on a trash-filled Earth? How do you think he'd react to the rise of super-efficient AI?
I think Wall-E would be very cautious. He's all about cleaning up the mess that humans have made.
Right.
So he'd probably be pretty wary of any technology that could potentially lead to more consumption and more waste.
Yeah.
He'd be advocating for using AI to develop more sustainable solutions and clean up the planet.
So kind of like a voice of caution.
Exactly. A reminder that progress isn't always good.
Okay. One last movie character analogy before we move on.
Right.
How about Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games?
Oh, interesting choice.
She's all about fighting for justice and equality. How do you think she'd approach this whole issue of AI and its potential impact on society?
I think Katniss would be very concerned about the potential for AI to exacerbate existing inequalities.
Yeah?
She'd be fighting to make sure that access to AI and its benefits are distributed fairly and that everyone has a voice in shaping its development.
So she'd be advocating for a more inclusive and equitable AI future.
Absolutely. A future where AI empowers everyone, not just a select few.
Well said. Those movie character analogies really help to illustrate the different perspectives and values that we need to consider as we kind of navigate this AI revolution.
It's a good reminder that AI is not just a technological issue, but it's a social and an ethical issue as well.
All right, so we've had our fun. I'm ready to dive back into the deep end now.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? What's the next chapter in this AI story?
Well, I think it's time to shift our focus back to DeepSeek and its potential impact on the AI landscape. This company is making waves, and it's worth exploring how they might be a catalyst for even greater change.
Okay, DeepSeek, the disruptor, the innovator, the potential game changer. What's their next move, and what does it mean for the future of AI?
DeepSeek's kind of like, you know that new band that comes out of nowhere?
Yeah.
And like suddenly everyone's talking about them. They're shaking up the whole industry.
Right, it's like they dropped the hottest new album.
Yeah.
And all the established artists are like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Exactly. And just like in the music industry, there are different ways to respond to a disruptor like DeepSeek.
Okay. So what are some of the options?
Well, some companies might try to just ignore them. I hope they'll just fade away.
The this too shall pass approach.
Exactly. But that's usually not a good strategy.
No, especially when the disruptor is like fundamentally changing the game.
Right. Then you've got others who might try to copy them, rush to develop their own efficient AI models.
Or catch up.
Exactly. But that can be tough, too, because you're always going to be one step behind.
Right. So what's the best move then?
Well, I think the smartest companies are the ones who see this as an opportunity.
Yeah.
A chance to collaborate, to learn, or even to acquire the up-and-coming star.
So in the case of NVIDIA, what are their options?
Well, they could double down on their high-performance chips. Focus on that segment of the market that still needs that raw power.
So cater to the heavy hitters.
Exactly. The ones who are pushing the limits of AI.
Like researchers or companies doing those really complex simulations.
Right. They're going to need those top-of-the-line chips.
But that's just one part of the market.
Yeah.
What about the rest? What about the companies that are looking for those more efficient, less power-hungry AI solutions?
That's where things get really interesting, because NVIDIA could actually pivot and start developing their own line of efficient AI chips.
So they'd be competing directly with DeepSeek.
Head-to-head.
It's like a battle of the AI chips.
Exactly, and it would push both companies to innovate even further.
That's kind of exciting. But there's another option.
Oh, yeah.
The acquisition route. Could NVIDIA just buy DeepSeek?
They could. And it would give them a huge advantage in the efficiency game.
Right. It would eliminate a competitor.
And bring in all that talent and technology.
It's like a power move in a board game.
Yeah, like Monopoly.
But acquisitions can be tricky, right? Sometimes the cultures don't mesh.
Oh, totally. It can be a recipe for disaster.
So it's a gamble for NVIDIA.
It is. But potentially a very lucrative one.
Okay, so we've got a few possible scenarios here.
Yep.
NVIDIA could focus on the high-performance market, develop their own efficient chips, or go for the acquisition.
Those are the main ones.
It's like a choose-your-own-adventure story.
I like that analogy.
For the future of AI hardware.
And we're all waiting to see which path they choose.
But this isn't just about corporate competition and market share.
No, it's much bigger than that.
Right. It's about the future of AI and its impact on the world.
And that's what makes this so fascinating.
Okay, so what kind of impact are we talking about? Is this the part where the robots take over?
Not quite, but there are some legitimate concerns. Even if each individual AI is super efficient,
Right.
the sheer volume of AI applications could put a real strain on our energy resources.
It's like that death by 1,000 cuts thing again.
Exactly. Even small increases can add up quickly when you're talking about AI on a global scale.
And it's not just about energy, right? What about all the ethical implications?
Oh, yeah. There are a lot of those. What happens to privacy? What about job displacement? These are questions we need to grapple with as AI becomes more powerful and more pervasive.
So it's not just the technical challenges, but the societal and ethical ones as well.
It's all interconnected.
This is a lot to process. So what can we as individuals do to make sure AI is used for good?
Well, first of all, we need to stay informed,
Okay.
learn about AI, understand its potential benefits and risks, and engage in conversations about its ethical implications.
So knowledge is power.
It's a good start.
Right. The more we understand about AI, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
And advocate for responsible AI development.
That's key. We need to be active participants in shaping the future of AI.
It's like we need to be the ethical watchdogs of the AI revolution,
I like that.
making sure it stays on the right track.
We need to hold the developers accountable.
Okay. But it's easy to get discouraged, right? It's like one person can't make that much of a difference.
I hear you. It can feel overwhelming, but I think every little bit helps.
Okay.
And collectively, we can make a big difference.
Right. So what are some things that we can do in our daily lives?
Well, you can start by thinking critically about the AI-powered tools and services that you use. Do you know how they work? Do you understand their impact on your privacy and the environment?
Those are good questions to ask.
And don't be afraid to demand better from the companies creating these technologies.
Right, like demand more transparency.
Yes.
More accountability.
More ethical consideration.
So it's like we're all investors in the future of AI.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that our investments are aligned with our values.
I love that analogy. Because we're all stakeholders in this AI revolution.
Right.
And we need to make sure it's a revolution worth having.
So we've talked about the potential consequences of DeepSeek's disruption, the challenges and opportunities for companies like NVIDIA,
Right.
and the role that we all play in shaping the future of AI.
It's a lot to take in.
But I have a feeling you've got a bold prediction up your sleeve.
Yeah.
What's your crystal ball telling you about the future of AI?
Okay, here's my prediction, and it's a big one. I believe that AI is going to become so deeply integrated into our lives that we won't even notice it anymore.
Whoa. So you're saying that we'll be living in a world where AI is practically invisible.
Think about electricity. We don't think about the electricity flowing through our walls when we flip on a light switch.
Right. We just expect it to be there.
Exactly. And that's where I think AI is headed. It'll be seamlessly integrated into our homes, our workplaces, our transportation systems, our healthcare, everything.
So we'll be powering personalized recommendations, optimizing traffic flow, diagnosing diseases, automating tasks.
All of that and more.
But if AI is going to be that pervasive, won't that just make all those problems we've been talking about even worse?
That's a real risk, and that's why we need to be having these conversations now.
Right.
The choices we make today will determine what kind of AI future we create.
So it's not just about developing the technology, it's about shaping its direction.
And making sure it's used for good.
Okay. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Okay.
It's not just about the tech itself. It's about how we use it and what kind of world we want to create.
That's it in a nutshell.
That's a pretty profound thought to end on. But I think we've covered a lot of ground today. From the specifics of DeepSeek's technology to the broader implications of the Jevons Paradox and the future of AI.
It's been a great conversation.
Me too. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought, something to chew on as they go about their day.
Sounds good. What is it?
If AI is going to be as ubiquitous as electricity, like you predict, what does that mean for our sense of humanity?
Ooh, that's a deep one.
Will we become so reliant on these intelligent machines that we lose something essential about ourselves?
That's a question that I don't have a simple answer for, but I think it's something we all need to contemplate as we navigate this AI-powered future.
Will we become more human or less so in this new world? It's both exciting and a little bit terrifying.
It is. But I believe that by engaging in these conversations, by challenging assumptions, and by demanding ethical and sustainable AI development, we can ensure that AI enhances our humanity rather than diminishing it.
Well said. So to our listeners, I leave you with this challenge.
Yeah.
As you encounter AI in your daily lives, ask yourself these questions. Is it making me more human or less so? Is it helping me connect with others or isolating me? Is it empowering me or controlling me?
Those are great questions.
Because ultimately, the future of AI is not predetermined.
No, it's not.
It's a future that we're all shaping together through our choices, our actions, our commitment to what it means to be human.
Well said. I couldn't agree more.
That's a really powerful message. It kind of gets to the heart of what we've been talking about today.
Yeah. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about the human impact.
Right? How AI shapes our lives, our relationships, even our understanding of what it means to be human.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and let whatever AI future happens happen. We have to be a part of it.
I totally agree. But it's easy to feel kind of overwhelmed by all of this.
Yeah.
You know, like where do we even start?
I know what you mean. It's a lot to take in. But I think the key is to focus on the things that we can control.
Like what specifically?
Like our own choices. The questions we ask, the conversations we have. You know, we can choose to support companies that are developing AI responsibly. We can demand transparency and accountability. We can educate ourselves and others about the potential benefits and risks.
So it's about taking ownership of our AI future.
Exactly. We're not just along for the ride. We're the ones driving.
I like that. It's empowering to think that we actually have a say in how this all plays out.
We do, and we need to use that power wisely because the stakes are high.
Okay. Let's bring this back to the Jevons Paradox for a second. We talked about how it applies to energy consumption, but could it apply to other aspects of AI as well?
That's an interesting thought. And I think you might be onto something. The Jevons Paradox is really about the unintended consequences of efficiency.
So as AI becomes more efficient, could it actually lead to an increase in certain problems?
It's definitely possible. For example, let's say we develop AI systems that are super efficient at creating personalized content.
Like those targeted ads that seem to know exactly what you're thinking.
Exactly. Now, that could be seen as a good thing in some ways, but it could also create filter bubbles where we're only exposed to information that reinforces our existing beliefs.
And that can make society even more divided.
Right. So in that case, the efficiency of the AI actually makes the problem worse.
That's kind of scary.
Yes?
So even if we solve the energy problem, there could be all these other unintended consequences.
And that's why it's so important to be thinking critically about AI, to anticipate these potential problems and find ways to mitigate them.
It's not just about making it work for good.
I think that's a perfect way to put it.
Well, this has been a really thought-provoking conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah. There's so much more to explore.
So to our listeners, I encourage you to keep learning. Keep asking questions and don't be afraid to challenge assumptions.
The future of AI is not set in stone. It's up to all of us to shape it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.